You ever have one of those moments where you realize you've somehow been cast as a lead in a drama you never auditioned for? Yeah, that was me. 3 hours into a drive that was supposed to be my fresh start, only to find a 40-foot RV sprawled across my brand new driveway, like a pink velour wrapped insult. I'm telling you, if you'd seen it, you'd think you'd accidentally stepped onto the set of a reality show starring retired dictators with too much time and rhinestones. Picture this. I pull in exhausted, still tasting Denver dust at the back of my throat. And there she is, Delilah Hutchkins, self-appointed vice president of the HOA, rocking hot pink sunglasses larger than my expectations and radiating that unmistakable I run this place energy. She's lounging under her RV awning like it's a throne room, and before I can even straighten my wheels, she's already blocking the driveway. Overflow parking, honey. Your uncle knew the rules. Time you learned them. I try to keep it civil. Ma'am, this is my property now. She laughs. Not a normal laugh. The dry, patronizing kind that scrapes against your nerves. Then she plants a plastic pink flamingo right in my uncle's rose garden, the one he planted after my aunt passed. That was my grand welcome home. Let me be clear about something. My Uncle Cornelius wasn't just some elderly relative with a tool belt. He was a guy who showed up when your pipes froze at midnight, fixed them without charging full price, and then made you stay for coffee strong enough to resurrect the dead. When his heart gave out last spring, half the county filled the church pews. He left me his A-frame cabin, 100 feet of lakefront, thick pine trees, morning fog rolling off the water, and apparently front row tickets to the HOA's private circus. After a divorce that detonated my life, I needed that cabin. It was the last place that felt steady. No strings attached in the will, just a key and a note. Start over. Make it yours. Lake Serenity has always been a strange blend. Lifelong locals, weekend visitors, folks who just want to fish in peace. That was before Delilah rolled in 8 years ago what she called her mobile headquarters, dragging behind her a heart 3 sizes too small. She rewrote the rules. Literally. If you didn't fit her version of community approved, too young, too old, too loud, too different, you got a glare and a fine slipped into your mailbox. My uncle, he ignored her, paid his dues, fixed neighbors' porches, let her nonsense drift past like wind through pine needles. His hand-carved workshop sign still hung proudly. Fair prices. Good work. Better coffee. Now the space where his old truck used to sit was buried beneath 40 feet of diesel-powered ego. Delilah had her generator roaring so loud you couldn't hear the loons on the lake. The air reeked of stale cigarettes and artificial vanilla. She even taped a motel business card to my door, like I was just passing through for the weekend. That first night, I gave up and drove to Smitty's Diner, ordered coffee so strong it could strip paint, and started asking questions. That's when the stories started spilling. The widow forced to tear down her bird feeders. A family fined $800 for planting tomatoes. A veteran told his flagpole violated aesthetic harmony. Your uncle was keeping a file on her, Smitty said quietly, sliding a spare key across the counter. His hands were shaking. 3 years' worth. Photos, receipts, recordings. Heard she pulled similar stunts in Nevada. I'll admit, I considered leaving right then. But Cornelius didn't raise quitters. And he sure didn't raise anyone who let a bully win. So Saturday morning, I came back armed with pastries and my most diplomatic smile. Maybe honey would work where vinegar failed. That illusion shattered the second I saw the driveway. Overnight, she'd added plastic fence posts, strung up caution tape, turned the place into a makeshift crime scene. 72-hour mutual aid camping provision, she recited smoothly, handing me a freshly laminated sheet, air bubbles still trapped under the plastic. That's when Beatrice Caldwell appeared. 78, retired schoolteacher, the kind of woman who could silence a classroom with a look. She waved me over, loud enough for Delilah to hear, and slipped me a manila envelope that carried the quiet confidence of someone who'd waited for this moment. Your uncle had the land resurveyed, she whispered, pointing to a boundary marker hidden beneath brush. Turns out my property extended 10 feet farther than anyone realized. Delilah's RV? Not just blocking my driveway. It was parked squarely on my land, nowhere near an easement. That's when Uncle's voice echoed in my head. document everything. And if you're going to fight a snake, make sure you've got the right shovel. The courthouse confirmed the boundaries. And inside a safety deposit box labeled emergency only, because of course it was I found gold. The original HOA charter, practically toothless now. A thick folder labeled DH violations. 3 years of evidence. Photos of her RV blocking fire lanes, handicap spots, driveways. Notes on recommended contractors who somehow always won HOA jobs, with invoices suspiciously inflated. When I returned home, she'd taped a violation notice to my door. Allegedly dangerous electrical modifications. $800 per day fine. Certified inspection required. From her cousin's company, naturally. The anger simmered, but something shifted. Every paper she slapped onto my door was another piece of proof. She wasn't cornering me. She was digging herself deeper. And Uncle had left me the shovel. That evening, I sat on the dock, documents spread around me. The lake lay glassy and calm, except for that relentless generator rumbling in the distance. But I stopped hearing defeat. I started hearing opportunity. Delilah thought she was playing checkers. Cornelius had been playing chess. And now I had a strategy. Monday morning, the real show began. County Inspector Carl pulled up, gripping his clipboard like a weapon, and Delilah hovered behind Inspector Carl, sequins flashing in the sun like she dressed for a courtroom drama instead of a code check. She launched into a theatrical monologue about dangerous electrical alterations, trying to steer him straight toward my uncle's workshop like it was a crime scene. But Carl wasn't born yesterday. He walked through slowly, checked the panels, studied the wiring, and found nothing but craftsmanship that exceeded code and labels neat enough to make any inspector smile. Delilah pivoted fast. She whipped out a stack of older permits and declared that under her updated community standards, everything needed to be reproved. $3,000 in new permit fees, plus another inspection, naturally conducted by her preferred contractors. Meanwhile, I noticed a crew pouring concrete beside her RV. So much for temporary parking. That's when Carl stiffened. He realized she was installing permanent structures without a single permit. Delilah's eyes filled instantly, tears on command. She claimed the setup was for medical equipment and produced a doctor's note that looked newer than her manicure. By then, I'd retained a lawyer, Janet, the kind of attorney who drinks imported espresso and carries herself like the word consequence follows her around. 30 days of occupation, and she'll try to claim residency, she warned. But as a property owner, you can tow the vehicle the moment it blocks access. No warning required. Just document everything. So I did. Every decibel of that generator, every extension cord, every tent stake hammered into my soil. Uncle's old ham radio equipment, let's just say it picked up more than weather reports. Recordings of Delilah strategizing with her helpers. Manufactured crises. Coordinated pressure campaigns meant to force property sales. Lake Serenity wasn't her first conquest. Nevada, Utah, Arizona, same script, same intimidation tactics. She escalated. Fake noise complaints filed against me. Anonymous letters accusing me of hazardous construction. The neighborhood split at first, but evidence has a way of changing minds. Photos circulated. Audio clips surfaced. Financial documents raised eyebrows. People started choosing sides. By Thursday, she was mailing counterfeit tax delinquency notices, complete with forged county seals and threats of seizure. I checked with my uncle's estate attorney. Taxes were fully paid. She'd crossed into forgery. That was her fatal mistake. The harder she pushed, the more proof she created. Uncle's meticulously organized folders outlined every violation she'd ever committed. Noise setbacks ignored. Illegal septic hookups. Unpermitted wiring. Environmental risks. 7 days of citations stacked up fast. Over $10,000 in fines. And unlike her threats, these were real liens that survived bankruptcy. She'd built herself a fortress of violations. Every decorative light strand, every slab of poured concrete was another nail sealing it shut. Uncle had even anticipated this moment. A towing contract already prepared. Big Mountain Towing, specialists in RV removals. All I had to do was sign. When the day arrived, it felt almost scripted. Code enforcement officers present, the tow truck idling, neighbors filming from lawns, pastries from cells circulating like we were hosting a block party. Delilah made her final stand. She chained herself to the RV, shouting about medical discrimination and religious persecution. She waved freshly printed paperwork that still smelled like toner. Municipal officers weren't impressed. Each outburst earned her another citation. Jake, the tow operator, clipped the chain clean. Rita from code enforcement cited her for obstruction. Within the hour, the RV was hauled away. Rolling down the street like the last float in a parade, nobody applauded. Then came the silence, the kind that settles after a storm finally breaks. Crisp, clean, almost sacred. The aftermath surprised me most. A neighborhood potluck. Stories shared openly. Janet presented the numbers. Over $20,000 in fines attached to every property Delilah owned. Criminal referrals filed for fraud, harassment, mail tampering, environmental violations. Her RV auction. Her multi-state scheme exposed. Associates indicted. A new HOA charter drafted. Clear, fair, transparent. As for me, I turned Uncle's workshop into a community tool library. Kept the coffee strong. Kept the pricing honest. Just like he would have, the loons returned to the lake. Evenings quieted. At sunset, the only sounds left were wind in the trees and water against the dock. Here's what I learned. People like Delilah succeed for a while because most of us value peace. But peace without accountability isn't peace. It's fear wearing a polite smile. Uncle understood that. Sometimes the way forward isn't loud. It's patient. Sometimes you just let bullies construct the scaffolding of their own collapse. Now, when I see those old concrete footings, repurposed as planters for my uncle's roses, I think about legacy. It's not just what you leave behind. It's what you defend. So let me ask you something. Where's your line? When does fighting back become necessary? And when does standing firm risk turning you into the villain of someone else's version of events? If you were in my shoes, would you have gone all in legally or walked away for the sake of quiet? Tell me what you would have done. And if you've ever stood up to a bully, HOA or otherwise, share your story. I want to hear how you drew your line. Because in the end, that's what makes a real community. Not just surviving the Delilahs of the world, but standing together so they never get that power again.